Part 1, Chapter 14 of The Guide for the Perplexed by Moses Maimonides. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 14. The homonymous term Adam is in the first place the name of the first man, being, as Scripture indicates, derived from Adamah, earth. Next it means mankind, as, My spirit shall not strive with man, Adam, Genesis 6:3. Again, who knoweth the spirit of the children of man, Adam, Ecclesiastes 3:21. So that a man, Adam, has no preeminence above a beast, Ecclesiastes 3:19. Adam signifies also the multitude, the lower classes as opposed to those distinguished from the rest, as both low, bene Adam, and high, bene Ish, Psalms 49:3. It is in this third signification that it occurs in the verses, The sons of the higher order, Elohim, saw the daughters of the lower order, Adam, Genesis 6:2, and, Forsooth, as the humble man, Adam, you shall die, Psalms 82:7. Chapter 1. Some have been of the opinion that by the Hebrew tselem, the shape and figure of a thing is to be understood, and this explanation led men to believe in the corporeality of the divine being. For they thought that the words, Let us make man in our tselem, Genesis 1:26, implied that God had the form of a human being, id est, that he had figure and shape, and that consequently he was corporeal. They adhered faithfully to this view, and thought that if they were to relinquish it, they would eo ipso reject the truth of the Bible. And further, if they did not conceive God as having a body possessed of face and limbs similar to their own in appearance, they would have to deny even the existence of God. The sole difference which they admitted was that he excelled in greatness and splendor, and that his substance was not flesh and blood. Thus far went their conception of the greatness and glory of God. The incorporeality of the divine being, and his unity in the true sense of the word, for there is no real unity without incorporeality, will be fully proved in the course of the present treatise, Part 2, Chapter 1. In this chapter, it is our sole intention to explain the meaning of the words tselem and demut. I hold that the Hebrew equivalent of form in the ordinary acceptation of the word, videlicet, the figure and shape of a thing, is to'ar. Thus we find, and Joseph was beautiful in to'ar, form, and beautiful in appearance. Genesis 39:6. What form, to'ar, is he of? 1 Samuel 28:14. As the form, to'ar, of the children of a king. Judges 8:18. It is also applied to form produced by human labor, as, He marketh its form, to'ar, with a line, and he marketh its form, to'ar, with a compass. Isaiah 44:13. This term is not at all applicable to God. The term tselem, on the other hand, signifies the specific form, videlicet, that which constitutes the essence of a thing, whereby the thing is what it is, the reality of a thing insofar as it is that particular being. In man, the form is that constituent which gives him human perception, and on account of this intellectual perception, the term tselem is employed in the sentences, In the tselem of God he created him, Genesis 1:27. It is therefore rightly said, Thou despisest their tselem, Psalms 63:20. The contempt can only concern the soul, the specific form of man, not the properties and shape of his body. I am also of opinion that the reason why this term is used for idols may be found in the circumstance that they are worshipped on account of some idea represented by them, not on account of their figure and shape. For the same reason the term is used in the expression the forms, salme, of your emerods. 1 Samuel 6:5. For the chief object was the removal of the injury caused by the emerods, not a change of their shape. As, however, it must be admitted that the term tselem is employed in these two cases, vide licet, the images of the emerods and the idols on account of the external shape, the term tselem is either a homonym or a hybrid term and would denote both the specific form and the outward shape, and similar properties relating to dimensions and the shape of material bodies. And in the phrase, "Let us make man in our tselem," Genesis 1:26, the term signifies the specific form of man, vide licet, his intellectual perception, and does not refer to his figure or shape. Thus we have shown the difference between tselem and to'ar, and explained the meaning of tselem. Demut is derived from the verb dama, he is like. This term likewise denotes agreement with regard to some abstract relation. Compare, "I am like a pelican of the wilderness," Psalms 102:7. The author does not compare himself to the pelican in point of wings and feathers, but in point of sadness. Nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him in beauty. Ezekiel 31:8. The comparison refers to the idea of beauty. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. Psalm 58:5. He is like unto a lion. Psalm 17:12. The resemblance indicated in these passages does not refer to the figure and shape, but to some abstract idea. In the same manner is used the likeness of the throne, Ezekiel 1:26. The comparison is made with regard to greatness and glory, not, as many believe, with regard to its square form, its breadth, or the length of its legs. This explanation applies also to the phrase, "the likeness of the hayot," living creatures, Ezekiel 1:13. As man's distinction consists in a property which no other creature on earth possesses, vide licet, intellectual perception, in the exercise of which he does not employ his senses, nor move his hand or his foot, this perception has been compared, though only apparently, not in truth, to the divine perception, which requires no corporeal organ. On this account, id est, on account of the divine intellect with which man has been endowed, he is said to have been made in the form and likeness of the Almighty, but far from it be the notion that the Supreme Being is corporeal, having a material form. Chapter 2. Some years ago, a learned man asked me a question of great importance. The problem and the solution which we gave in our reply deserve the closest attention. Before, however, entering upon this problem and its solution, I must premise that every Hebrew knows that the term Elohim is a homonym and denotes God, angels, judges, and the rulers of countries, and that Onkelos, the proselyte, explained it in the true and correct manner by taking Elohim in the sentence, "And ye shall be like Elohim," Genesis 3:5, in the last mentioned meaning, and rendering the sentence, "And ye shall be like princes." Having pointed out the homonymity of the term Elohim, we return to the question under consideration. It would at first sight, said the objector, appear from Scripture that man was originally intended to be perfectly equal to the rest of the animal creation, which is not endowed with intellect, reason, or power of distinguishing between good and evil, but that Adam's disobedience to the command of God procured him that great perfection which is the peculiarity of man, vide licet, the power of distinguishing between good and evil, the noblest of all the faculties of our nature, the essential characteristic of the human race. It thus appears strange that the punishment for rebelliousness should be the means of elevating man to a pinnacle of perfection to which he had not attained previously. This is equivalent to saying that a certain man was rebellious and extremely wicked, wherefore his nature was changed for the better, and he was made to shine as a star in the heavens. Such was the purport and subject of the question, though not in the exact words of the inquirer. Now mark our reply, which was as follows. You appear to have studied the matter superficially, and nevertheless you imagine that you can understand a book which has been the guide of past and present generations, when you for a moment withdraw from your lusts and appetites and glance over its contents as if you were reading a historical work or some poetical composition. Collect your thoughts and examine the matter carefully, for it is not to be understood as you at first sight think, but as you will find after due deliberation, namely, the intellect, which was granted to man as the highest endowment, was bestowed on him before his disobedience. With reference to this gift, the Bible states that man was created in the form and likeness of God. On account of this gift of intellect, man was addressed by God and received his commandments, as it is said, "And the Lord commanded Adam," Genesis 2:16. For no commandments are given to the brute creation or to those who are devoid of understanding. Through the intellect, man distinguishes between the true and the false. This faculty Adam possessed perfectly and completely. The right and the wrong are terms employed in the science of apparent truths, morals, not in that of necessary truths. As exempli gratia, it is not correct to say in reference to the proposition, the heavens are spherical, it is good, or to declare the assertion that the earth is flat to be bad. We say of the one it is true, of the other it is false. Similarly, our language expresses the idea of true and false by the terms emet and sheker, of the morally right and the morally wrong by tob and ra'. Thus it is the function of the intellect to discriminate between the true and the false, a distinction which is applicable to all objects of intellectual perception. When Adam was yet in a state of innocence, and was guided solely by reflection and reason, on account of which it is said, "Thou hast made him, man, little lower than the angels," Psalms 8:6. He was not at all able to follow or to understand the principles of apparent truths. The most manifest impropriety, videlicet to appear in a state of nudity, was nothing unbecoming according to his idea. He could not comprehend why it should be so. After man's disobedience, however, when he began to give way to desires which had their source in his imagination and to the gratification of his bodily appetites, as it is said, "And the wife saw that the tree was good for food and delightful to the eyes," Genesis 3:6, he was punished by the loss of part of that intellectual faculty which he had previously possessed. He therefore transgressed a command with which he had been charged on the score of his reason, and having obtained a knowledge of the apparent truths, he was wholly absorbed in the study of what is proper and what improper. Then he fully understood the magnitude of the loss he had sustained, what he had forfeited, and in what situation he was thereby placed. Hence we read, "And ye shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil," and not knowing or discerning the true and the false. While in necessary truths we can only apply the words true and false, not good and evil. Further, observe the passage, "And the eyes of both were opened, and they knew they were naked." Genesis 3:7. It is not said, "And the eyes of both were opened, and they saw," for what the man had previously and what he saw after the circumstance was precisely the same. There had been no blindness, which was now removed, but he received a new faculty, whereby he found things wrong, which previously he had not regarded as wrong. Besides, you must know that the Hebrew word pakah, used in this passage, is exclusively employed in the figurative sense of receiving new sources of knowledge, not in that of regaining the sense of sight. Compare, "God opened her eyes," Genesis 11:19. "Then shall the eyes of the blind be open," Isaiah 38:8. "Open ears, he heareth not," Ibid 42:20. Similar in sense to the verse, "Which have eyes to see, and see not," Ezekiel 12:2. When, however, Scripture says of Adam, "He changed his face," panav, "and thou sentest him forth," Job 14:20, it must be understood in the following way. On account of the change of his original aim, he was sent away. For panim, the Hebrew equivalent of face, is derived from the verb panah, he turned, and signifies also aim, because man generally turns his face towards the thing he desires. In accordance with this interpretation, our text suggests that Adam, as he altered his intention and directed his thoughts to the acquisition of what he was forbidden, he was banished from paradise. This was his punishment. It was measure for measure. At first he had the privilege of tasting pleasure and happiness, and of enjoying repose and security. But as his appetites grew stronger, and he followed his desires and impulses, as we have already stated above, and partook of the food he was forbidden to taste, he was deprived of everything, was doomed to subsist on the meanest kind of food, such as he had never tasted before, and this even only after exertion and labor, as it is said, "Thorns and thistles shall grow up for thee," Genesis 3:18. "By the sweat of thy brow," etc. And in explanation of this, the text continues, "And the Lord God drove him from the Garden of Eden to till the ground whence he was taken." He was now, with respect to food and many other requirements, brought to the level of the lower animals. Compare, "Thou shalt eat the grass of the field," Genesis 3:18. Reflecting on his condition, the psalmist says, "Adam, unable to dwell in dignity, was brought to the level of the dumb beast." Psalms 49:13. May the Almighty be praised, whose design and wisdom cannot be fathomed. Chapter 30. In its primary meaning, Akal, to eat, is used in the sense of taking food by animals. This needs no illustration. It was afterwards observed that eating includes two processes. One, the loss of the food, i.e., the destruction of its form, which first takes place. Two, the growth of animals, the preservation of their strength and their existence, and the support of all the forces of their body caused by the food they take. The consideration of the first process led to the figurative use of the verb in the sense of consuming, destroying. Hence it includes all modes of depriving a thing of its form. Compare, "And the land of your enemies shall destroy," literally eat you. Leviticus 26:38. "A land that destroyeth," literally eateth, "the inhabitants thereof." Numbers 13:32. "Ye shall be destroyed," literally eaten, "with the sword." Isaiah 1:6. "Shall the sword destroy," literally eat. 2 Samuel 2:26. "And the fire of the Lord burnt among them, and destroyed," literally ate them, "that were in the uttermost parts of the camp." Numbers 11:1. God is a destroying, literally eating fire. Deuteronomy 4:24. That is, he destroys those who rebel against him, as the fire destroys everything that comes within its reach. Instances of this kind are very frequent. With reference to the second effect of the act of eating, the verb to eat is figuratively used in the sense of acquiring wisdom, learning, in short, for all intellectual perceptions. These preserve the human form, intellect, constantly in the most perfect manner, in the same way as food preserves the body in its best condition. Compare, "Come ye, buy and eat," Isaiah 55:1. "Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good." Ibid 2. "It is not good to eat much honey." Proverbs 25:27. "My son, eat thou honey, because it is good, and the honeycomb, which is sweet to thy taste. So shall the knowledge of wisdom be unto thy soul." Ibid 24:13 and 14. This figurative use of the verb to eat in the sense of acquiring wisdom is frequently met with in the Talmud. Exempli gratia. "Come, eat fat meat at Rabbah's," Baba Bathra 22a. Compare, all expressions of eating and drinking found in this book of Proverbs refer to wisdom, or according to another reading, to the law. Kohelet Rabbah on Ecclesiastes 3:13. Wisdom has also been frequently called water. Exempli gratia. "Ho, every one that thirsteth, Come ye to the waters. Isaiah 55:1. The figurative meaning of these expressions has been so general and common that it was almost considered as its primitive signification and led to the employment of hunger and thirst in the sense of absence of wisdom and intelligence. Compare, I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. My soul thirsteth for God, for the living God. Psalms 42:3. Instances of this kind occur frequently. The words, with joy shall ye draw water out of the wells of salvation, Isaiah 12:3, are paraphrased by Jonathan son of Uzziel thus, You will joyfully receive new instruction from the chosen of the righteous. Consider how he explains water to indicate the wisdom which will then spread, and the wells, ma'ayane, as being identical with the eyes of the congregation, Numbers 15:24, in the sense of the chiefs or the wise. By the phrase from the chosen of the righteous, he expresses his belief that righteousness is true salvation. You now see how he gives to every word in this verse some signification referring to wisdom and study. This should be well considered. Chapter 49. The angels are likewise incorporeal. They are intelligences without matter, but they are nevertheless created beings, and God created them, as will be explained below. In Bereshit Rabbah, on Genesis 3:24, we read the following remark of our sages. The angel is called the flame of the sword, which turned every way, Genesis 3:24, in accordance with the words, his ministers a flaming fire, Psalms 104:4. The attribute, which turned every way, is added because angels are changeable in form. They appear at one time as males, at another as females, now as spirits, now as angels. By this remark, they clearly stated that angels are incorporeal and have no permanent bodily form independent of the mind of him who perceives them. They exist entirely in prophetic vision and depend on the action of the imaginative power, as will be explained when speaking on the true meaning of prophecy. As to the words, at another time as females, which imply that the prophets in prophetical vision perceived angels also in the form of women, they refer to the vision of Zechariah, verse 9, And behold, there came out 2 women, and the wind was in their wings. You know very well how difficult it is for men to form a notion of anything immaterial and entirely devoid of corporeality, except after considerable training. It is especially difficult for those who do not distinguish between objects of the intellect and objects of the imagination, and depend mostly on the mere imaginative power. They believe that all imagined things exist, or at least have the possibility of existing. But that which cannot be imagined does not exist, and cannot exist. For persons of this class, and the majority of thinkers belong to it, cannot arrive at the true solution of any question or at the explanation of anything doubtful. On account of this difficulty, the prophetic books contain expressions which, taken literally, imply that angels are corporeal, moving about, endowed with human form, receiving commands of God, obeying His word, and performing whatever He wishes according to His command. All this only serves to lead to the belief that angels exist and are alive and perfect in the same way as we have explained in reference to God. If the figurative representation of angels were limited to this, their true essence would be believed to be the same as the essence of God, since, in reference to the Creator, expressions are likewise employed, which literally imply that he is corporeal, living, moving, and endowed with human form. In order, therefore, to give to the mind of men the idea that the existence of angels is lower than the existence of God, certain forms of lower animals were introduced in the description of angels. It was thereby shown that the existence of God is more perfect than that of angels, as much as man is more perfect than the lower animals. Nevertheless, no organ of the brute creation was attributed to the angels except wings. Without wings, the act of flying appears as impossible as that of walking without legs. For these two modes of motion can only be imagined in connection with these organs. The motion of flying has been chosen as a symbol to represent that angels possess life, because it is the most perfect and most sublime movement of the brute creation. Men consider this motion a perfection to such an extent that they themselves wish to be able to fly, in order to escape easily what is injurious, and to obtain quickly what is useful, though it be at a distance. For this reason this motion has been attributed to the angels. There is besides another reason. The bird in its flight is sometimes visible, sometimes withdrawn from our sight, one moment near to us and in the next far off, and these are exactly the circumstances which we must associate with the idea of angels, as will be explained below. This imaginary perfection, the motion of flight, being the exclusive property of the brute creation, has never been attributed to God. You must not be misled by the passage, "And he rode upon a cherub, and he did fly." Psalms 18:10. For it is the cherub that did fly, and the simile only serves to denote the rapid arrival of that which is referred to in that passage. Compare, "Behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt." Isaiah 19:1. That is, the punishment alluded to will come down quickly upon Egypt. Nor should expressions like "the face of an ox," "the face of a lion," "the face of an eagle," "the sole of the foot of a calf," found in the prophecies of Ezekiel 1:10 and 7, mislead you. For all these are explained in a different manner, as you will learn later, and besides, the prophet only describes the animals, chayot. The subject will be explained, Part 3, Chapter 1, though by mere hints, as far as necessary, for directing your attention to the true interpretation. The motion of flying, frequently mentioned in the Bible, necessitates, according to our imagination, the existence of wings. Wings are therefore given to the angels as symbols expressive of their existence, not of their true essence. You must also bear in mind that whenever a thing moves very quickly, it is said to fly, as that term implies great velocity of motion. Compare, "As the eagle flieth," Deuteronomy 28:49. The eagle flies and moves with greater velocity than any other bird, and therefore it is introduced in this simile. Furthermore, the wings are the organs, literally causes, of flight. Hence, the number of the wings of angels in the prophetic vision corresponds to the number of the causes which set a thing in motion. But this does not belong to the theme of this chapter. Compare Part 2, Chapter 4 and 10. Chapter 39. The Hebrew leb, heart, is a homonymous noun signifying that organ which is the source of life to all beings possessing a heart. Compare, "and thrust them through the heart of Absalom." 1 Samuel 18:4. This organ being in the middle of the body, the word has been figuratively applied to express the middle part of a thing. Compare, "unto the midst, leb, of heaven." Deuteronomy 4:11. The midst, lebat, of fire. Exodus 3:2. It further denotes thought. Compare, "went not mine heart with thee?" 2 Kings 5:26. Id est, "I was with thee in my thought when a certain event happened." Similarly must be explained, "and that ye seek not after your own heart." Numbers 15:39. Id est, "after your own thoughts." Whose heart id est whose thought turneth away this day. Deuteronomy 29:18. The word further signifies counsel. Compare. All the rest of Israel were of one heart, id est, had one plan, to make David king. 1 Chronicles 12:38. But fools die for want of heart, id est, of counsel. My heart, id est, my counsel, shall not turn away from this so long as I live. Job 27:6. For this sentence is preceded by the words, My righteousness I hold fast, and will not let it go. And then follows, My heart shall never turn away from this. As regards the expression, yecheraf, I think that it may be compared with the same verb in the form nechrefet, a handmaid betrothed, nechrefet, to a man, Leviticus 19:20, where nechrefet is similar in meaning to the Arabic munharifat, turning away, and signifies turning from the state of slavery to that of marriage. Leb, heart, denotes also will. Compare, and I shall give you pastors according to my will. Libbi, Jeremiah 3:15. Is thine heart right as my heart is? 2 Kings 10:15. Id est, is thy will right as my will is? In this sense, the word has been figuratively applied to God. Compare, that shall do according to that which is in mine heart and in my soul. 1 Samuel 2:35. Id est, according to my will, and mine eyes and mine heart. Id est, my providence and my will shall be there perpetually. 1 Kings 9:3. The word is also used in the sense of understanding. Compare, for vain man will be endowed with a heart. Job 11:12. Id est, will be wise. A wise man's heart is at his right hand. Ecclesiastes 10:2. Id est, his understanding is engaged in perfect thoughts, the highest problems. Instances of this kind are numerous. It is in this sense, namely, that of understanding, that the word is used whenever figuratively applied to God. But exceptionally, it is also used in the sense of will. It must in each passage be explained in accordance with the context. Also, in the following and similar passages, it signifies understanding. Consider it in thine heart, Deuteronomy 4:39, and none considereth in his heart, Isaiah 44:19. Thus also, yet the Lord hath not given you an heart to perceive, is identical in its meaning with, unto thee it was shown that thou mightest know. Deuteronomy 4:35. As to the passage, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, Ibid 6:5, I explain with all thine heart to mean with all the powers of thine heart, that is, with all the powers of the body, for they all have their origin in the heart. And the sense of the entire passage is, make the knowledge of God the aim of all thy actions, as we have stated in our commentary on the Mishnah, Abot, 8 chapters, 5, and in our Mishnah Torah, Yesodei HaTorah, chapter 2:2. Part 1, Chapter 40 of the Guide for the Perplexed by Moses Maimonides. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 40. Ruach is a homonym signifying air, that is, one of the four elements. Compare, and the air of God moved. Genesis 1:2. It denotes also wind. Compare, and the east wind, Ruach, brought the locusts. Exodus 10:13. West wind, Ruach, Ibid 19. In this sense, the word occurs frequently. Next, it signifies breath. Compare, a breath, Ruach, that passed away and does not come again. Psalms 78:39. Wherein is the breath, Ruach, of life. Genesis 7:15. It signifies also that which remains of man after his death, and is not subject to destruction. Compare, and the spirit, Ruach, shall return unto God who gave it. Ecclesiastes 12:7. Another signification of this word is the divine inspiration of the prophets whereby they prophesy, as we shall explain when speaking on prophecy as far as it is opportune to discuss the subject in a treatise like this. Compare, and I will take of the Spirit, Ruach, which is upon thee, and will put it upon them. Numbers 11:17. And it came to pass when the Spirit, Ruach, rested upon them. Ibid 25. The Spirit, Ruach, of the Lord spake by me. 2 Samuel 13:2. The term is frequently used in this sense. The meaning of intention, will, is likewise contained in the word Ruach. Compare, a fool uttereth all his spirit, Ruach, Proverbs 29:11. Id est, his intention and will. And the spirit, Ruach, of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. Isaiah 19:3. Id est, her intentions will be frustrated, and her plans will be obscured. Who has comprehended the Spirit, Ruach, of the Lord, or who is familiar with his counsel, that he may tell us? Isaiah 40:13. Id est, who knows the order fixed by his will, or perceives the system of his providence in the existing world, that he may tell us, as we shall explain in the chapters in which we shall speak on providence. Thus the Hebrew ruach, when used in reference to God, has generally the fifth signification, sometimes, however, as explained above, the last signification, videlicet, will. The meaning of the word in each individual case is therefore to be determined by the context. End of chapter 40. Chapter 41. The Hebrew nephesh, soul, is a homonymous noun signifying the vitality which is common to all living sentient beings, exempli gratia, wherein there is a living soul, nephesh, Genesis 1:30. It denotes also blood, as in, thou shalt not eat the blood, nephesh, with the meat, Deuteronomy 12:23. Another signification of the term is reason, that is, the distinguishing characteristic of man, as in, as the Lord liveth that made us this soul, Jeremiah 38:16. It denotes also the part of man that remains after his death, nephesh, soul. Compare, but the soul, nephesh, of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of life, 1 Samuel 25:29. Lastly, it denotes will. Compare, to bind his princes at his will, be nafsho, Psalms 105:22. Thou wilt not deliver me unto the will, benephesh, of my enemies, Psalms 41:3. And according to my opinion, it has this meaning also in the following passages. If it be your will, nafshechem, that I should bury my dead, Genesis 23:8. Though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my will, nefshi, could not be toward this people, Jeremiah 15:1. That is, I had no pleasure in them, I did not wish to preserve them. When nephesh is used in reference to God, it has the meaning will, as we have already explained with reference to the passage, that shall do according to that which is in my will, be lebabi, and in mine intention, be nefshi, 1 Samuel 2:35. Similarly, we explain the phrase, and his will, nefsho, to trouble Israel ceased, Judges 10:16. Jonathan the son of Uzziel, in the Targum of the Prophets, did not translate this passage because he understood nefshi to have the first signification, and finding, therefore, in these words sensation ascribed to God, he omitted them from his translation. If, however, nephesh be here taken in the last signification, the sentence can well be explained, for in the passage which precedes it is stated that Providence abandoned the Israelites and left them on the brink of death. Then they cried and prayed for help, but in vain. When, however, they had thoroughly repented, when their misery had increased, and their enemy had had power over them, He showed mercy to them, and his will to continue their trouble and misery ceased. Note it well, for it is remarkable. The preposition ba in this passage has the force of the preposition min, from or of, and ba'amal is identical with ma'amal. Grammarians give many instances of this use of the preposition ba, and that which remaineth of ba, the flesh, and of ba, the bread. Leviticus 8:32. If there remains but few of ba, the years. Ibid 25:52. Of ba, the strangers, and of ba, those born in the land. Exodus 12:19. Chapter 42. Hai, living, signifies a sentient organism, literally growing and having sensation. Compare, every moving thing that liveth, Genesis 9:3. It also denotes recovery from a severe illness, and was recovered, va'yechi, of his sickness. Isaiah 38:9. In the camp till they recovered, chayotam. Joshua 5:8. Quick, raw, chai, flesh. Leviticus 13:10. Mavet signifies death and severe illness, as in, his heart died, v'yamut, within him, and he became as a stone. 1 Samuel 25:37. That is, his illness was severe. For this reason it is stated concerning the son of the woman of Zarephath, and his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. 1 Kings 17:17. The simple expression va'yamut would have given the idea that he was very ill, near death, like Nabal, when he heard what had taken place. Some of the Andalusian authors say that his breath was suspended, so that no breathing could be perceived at all, as sometimes an invalid is seized with a fainting fit or an attack of asphyxia, and it cannot be discovered whether he is alive or dead. In this condition the patient may remain a day or two. The term chai has also been employed in reference to the acquisition of wisdom. Compare, so shall they be life, chayim, unto thy soul. Proverbs 3:22. For whoso findeth me findeth life. Ibid 8:35. For they are life, chayim, to those that find them. Ibid 4:22. Such instances are numerous. In accordance with this metaphor, true principles are called life, and corrupt principles death. Thus the Almighty says, See, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. Deuteronomy 30:15, showing that life and good, death and evil are identical. And then he explains these terms. In the same way I understand his words, that ye may live. Ibid 5:33, in accordance with the traditional interpretation of that it may be well with thee. Scilicet, in the life to come. Ibid 22:7. In consequence of the frequent use of this figure in our language, our sages say, the righteous even in death are called living, while the wicked even in life are called dead. Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Barakot, page 78. Note this well.